colleague Amelia. We're so excited to be here, and again, welcome to ZK Day Singapore and Modular Edition. And there will be 6 panels lining up today, and the panel discussions will offer a diverse perspective from industry experts and ensuring a well-rounded exploration of the topics at hand. And I'm so honored to introduce you guys to the first Friday chat, the intersection of ZK and modular, and we're privileged to have back on stage Kenny Lee, Manta's network co-founder, and Nick White, COO of Celestia.
Hello? Okay. Test. Yeah, we were supposed to have cake, but I'm not sure where that is. I was actually fasting for the whole entire morning, so I was really looking forward to this cake, but I'm sure it'll show up sometime. In the meantime, I think, I had mentioned earlier about why I think this edition of ZK Day is so exciting, not just because of ZK, but also because of modularity. And I think like one of the unifying themes here is thinking about scalability and usability in Web3. So really excited to have Nick from Celestia on the stage as well. And maybe Nick, you can give a brief intro about yourself as well as Celestia.
Sure. Well, thanks, Kenny. It's a pleasure to be here. We're big supporters of Manta. And so Celestia is a new modular blockchain network. And it is focused specifically on the modular layers of data availability and consensus. And the purpose of Celestia is to build a blockchain that can scale rollups like Manta and provide for them very cost-effective, abundant block space to build upon that's very decentralized. So, Manta is one of our first partners. They're really sort of showcasing the power of this new modular paradigm, because Manta is an execution layer that has sort of a customized virtual machine under the hood that makes it so compelling for developers who want to build in ZK applications and things like that. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be here and talk more about scalability.
Awesome, thanks Nick. And yeah, so for the conversation today, right, like definitely we'll go into Celestia, we'll go into Manta, what we're all doing here and why it matters, but also I think like I want to keep it at this central theme of like, is as cliche as it sounds, like the next billion users, right? Like everyone keeps talking about that in Web3, but we haven't gotten anywhere close to that. When you think about like applications like Duolingo, I don't know if you guys know, it's like an app that teaches you how to speak other languages, right? And this single app itself has 10 million daily active users. When you look at the same thing in the crypto space in Web3, throughout all of the entire Ethereum ecosystem, right, like we're looking at around 300,000 daily active users. And so the reality is that like, while we have all this amazing innovation, all this amazing talent, there is still that lack of the usability and the user experience side. And I think that really gets back to a lot of what we see in terms of the issues around scalability. And so that's what really excites me about modularity, about Celestia, and about like Manta building on the ZK side to, we'll get into more detail about it, but essentially offer ZK almost like a modular approach as well. And so just to kind of keep that at a high level, just to, warm our thoughts here, would love to just understand a little bit more of like, how do you define modularity?
So modularity is the concept that was introduced in 2019 by Mustafa Al-Bassam, one of the co-founders of Celestia, in his research paper called Lazy Ledger. And in that he kind of had this insight that since the beginning of blockchain architectures, like with Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the way through all the modern L1s, people took for granted that you had to build a blockchain where you did all of the core functions within one protocol. So the single, every monolithic protocol basically does consensus, data availability, and execution all at the same time. But there was no actual inherent reason why that had to be that way. And that you could actually, if you thought about it, you could distill and decouple those functions into separate protocols, and then have those protocols run on top of each other in a stack and kind of like borrow from each other the functionality that they need. And by doing this, you unlock a whole new architecture and sort of paradigm for how to build decentralized applications. And I really agree with you, by the way, that like, you know, we need to, we're all here for applications and adoption at the end of the day. And like, the modular architecture's goal is to make it so that we can build scalable, compelling applications for end users. And so once again, like the layers of the modular stack that are most important, I would say, are data availability, which is publishing data so that anyone on the internet can download it and see it and verify it. Then you have consensus, which is ordering that data. And then you have execution, which is taking those transactions and then executing them, like computing what the effect is, the output, like what the final state is after all those transactions have taken place. And so the execution layer is like rollups, and then L1s like Ethereum or Celestia focus on consensus and data availability.
Got it. Thank you for that explanation. And just to kind of bring a little more context into this, you know, if I look at the state of blockchain right now, Web3, all the applications that are existing, yeah, sure, it's a little clunky, but you know, as a critic, I could say it's working just fine. I don't really feel the effects of this like monolithic approach for data availability. And so, like, what sort of difference can the end user really witness between, like, you know, having this sort of monolithic settlement versus having some sort of modular DA?
Yeah, well, I think we happen to be in a bit of a bear market now, and so there's not much activity on chain, and it's like we're kind of in a winter like hibernation mode. But whenever we've had like new waves of users and application and liquidity come on chain, we've suffered from fee spikes. And like, I mean, I've experienced this directly, like using DeFi and Ethereum, paying like $200 up to even $400 for a single transaction, which is absolutely insane. There's no way that that can scale to the rest of the world. And so really what one of the core innovations of Celestia and modular blockchains is that for the first time, we can have block space that scales with the number of nodes in the network. So any monolithic chain cannot increase the block size without centralizing the network. And so that's why you have things like Ethereum where they have a finite throughput. And once that's reached, the fees have to increase because there's just more demand than there is supply. And with Celestia, because we have a technology called data availability sampling, it means that we can increase the amount of block space in line with the number of light nodes in the network. And so that brings me to another piece which is also different about the modular stack, which is that end users will be able to verify the chain directly by sampling Celestia and then verifying the proofs of the execution layers like Manta. We think that's very important because ultimately verifiability is the core value proposition of blockchains and is what makes them decentralized. So yeah, that's sort of what the difference is for users.
Got it. Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, and I think especially when it comes to gas fees, right? I don't know how many of you guys have been in that recent market. I very much felt it as well. Especially when it came to ZK applications also, which is part of the reason why we really started to explore Manta Pacific as a layer 2 solution. Part of the reason is because I don't know how many of you guys have interacted with ZK-enabled applications on Ethereum, right? Like Tornado Cash, for example, right? Everyone's heard of it. But if you used it in the height of the bull market, you would have seen that just the gas fees alone were around the $200, $400 range that Nick had just described to do like a round-trip transaction. And so that's very unsustainable. There's a lot of financial barriers there. So the question from, you know, thinking about it on the Manta side is how do you reduce those fees? How do you make ZK-enabled applications as usable as possible? And so that's why we developed our universal circuits. And I think, like, you know, from a philosophical perspective, right, like the modularity around the data availability layer, and even I guess you could describe it as like the modularity around the ZK, now offering ZK as a service, it kind of also centralizes around that unifying theme of being able to bring that user experience so that you don't have to worry about paying $200, $400 in the future if there's ever any sort of bull market and there's heavy congestion on the network as well. And so, yeah, I think, like, from my perspective, modularity, right, like, right now, we are looking a lot on the infrastructure level, And that's where the data availability really shines. I think that when it comes to the application level, right, offering services like, you know, ZK as a service so that you don't have to build your own sort of circuits and having able to instead call directly through SDKs is extremely powerful. And so at the end of the day, I think like modularity for me really means like just simplifying the developer experience and making it so that the developers can focus on what really brings value to their application, rather than having to worry about gas fees, having to worry about data availability, having to worry about building and compiling circuits, right? Like that's not what someone has to worry about. I think it's almost like a business, and when you are in business, you can worry about everything from the accounting all the way up to the product, or you can have team members, or you can have software that specializes in taking care of all that for you, right? And so like, what's really interesting to me is, you know, you guys are really talking about modularity, and it feels like such a new idea in the Web3 space, but everywhere else, it already exists, right? In the Web2 space, no one says, let's build our own database, right? Everyone says, let's use MySQL or Postgres or some sort of like unstructured database that's open source or enterprise. But I mean, last time I checked, I don't think anyone builds their own databases anymore, right? And so like, that's the same sort of theme here that I see that we're kind of evolving into. And so it's really exciting to see you guys at the forefront of that. And around that sort of theme, right? Like another sort of theme that I'm kind of seeing around L2s and like the emergence of L2s and the execution layer, right? Like with rollup as a service providers, it seems like L2s are easier to launch than ever. And so what sort of role does Celestia play in this?
So, well, first I want to just touch on what you said, which is about like modularity. One of the advantages is that you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. Like, if you want to build something, it's like, oh, well, there's an off-the-shelf protocol that specializes in this, and I'll use that as a component rather than having to build it from scratch myself. And I think this is but you can choose among those different options, so you have like a huge amount of like variety and flexibility. And then if you have something special that doesn't exist yet, you can go ahead and build that and customize it, which is sort of like what you guys did with your circuits. So that's like a huge unlock for developers, and will, I think, speed up the rate of innovation in the space, because you can try so many more experiments. Like in one single monolithic chain, you can only try one sort of like, I would say, arrangement of the different components. But in a modular stack, you can literally try in parallel thousands of different experiments of how to build your application. So I'm really excited about that. So now, in terms of the role of Celestia, in terms of making it easier to deploy rollups, well, so Celestia's functions, right, that it provides with data availability and consensus. Data availability is crucial to the security of rollups, because in order for a fraud-proof mechanism or a ZK proofs to be secure, you need to ensure that the data behind those proofs was made available, was published. So first of all, it provides security out of the box. So you know, before, if you're launching an app chain like on Cosmos, you'd have to issue a token and stake it. You have to like derive your own security. The nice thing is you inherit security directly by building a rollup. The next piece is consensus, and consensus is about ordering. And so that's also something that Celestia provides to rollups, is a guarantee that once they post their blocks, those blocks are not going to be changed, and like the order of them will not be changed. And so that saves you from having to bootstrap a whole validator set of your own, or a consensus set, which can take a lot of time, and is like a huge amount, also a huge amount of ongoing operating overhead to maintain a new consensus network. So instead, you're borrowing both the security of data availability and the consensus of Celestia. So it really saves you that much time. Now, there's also a lot of other teams like rollup as a service teams who are kind of like system integrators. Like if you like borrowing like an analogy from other industries, where they take sort of the off-the-shelf components of these different modular protocols and then wrap them into sort of like an end product for a customer. And so I think the rollup as a service really also will play a big role in making it easy and very turnkey. And like the end goal of the modular stack is to make it so that it's as easy to deploy a new rollup as it is to currently deploy a new smart contract.
Got it, thank you. And so, that brings up 2 points. One is, when you're thinking about things such as like shared security, right? Like that's really powerful because like at the end of the day with Manta Network, what we wanted to do from the outset was make it as easy as possible to develop and build and deploy ZK applications, right? And so like that's where all of our time was spent thinking about, but we don't want to focus on the infrastructure side. Like we don't want to have to worry about the nodes and the validators and everything. And so having that ability to just tap into the shared security, I think is like extremely powerful, not just from like Manta Network's perspective, but also like app chains, right? Because like at the end of the day, a lot of these applications now are really thinking, okay, I don't want to share these compute resources on the execution layer with all these other applications. I want my own sort of reserved environment. So I'm actually seeing a lot of trend moving in that direction. What are you guys seeing over at Celestia?
Yeah, I mean, so Celestia is very much aligned with the Cosmos ecosystem and their vision for app chains. Because we believe that the end state of any successful application is to become their own chain. Because like, it's fine to start as a smart contract probably, because like, as a smart contract on Ethereum, you have access to liquidity and users, and maybe you're testing things out and seeing how things will go. But then if you get traction, you're going to want to, and you're already going to have liquidity and users who are going to follow you, and then you're going to want to have the ability to customize your application for your specific use case, to optimize for fees, to make it so that your user experience is better, and also, frankly, because you'll be able to capture more value as your own chain. Because when you're building a smart contract, you seed a lot of the economic value to the underlying layer one, both the execution fees and potentially MEV. So I think like the end state of any successful application is an app chain. However, without something like Celestia and without rollups, deploying an app chain is still a lot of work. And because like we talked about before, you have to have a consensus network, you probably have to issue a proof of stake token and all that stuff. And so Celestia makes it very like turnkey and easy to build that. And so that's why we think we'll overall supercharge the app chain revolution in the long term. But we're also very bullish still and excited about general purpose execution chains too, because they have an important role to play.
Yeah, I think in some respects, I see Manta kind of in the middle of all this because on the one hand, we do want to be as general purpose as possible because we want to service that next generation of applications, and that next generation of applications really comes with ZK-enabled features. I personally don't feel like we can't get to that stage without ZK. But at the same time, the ZK enablement itself is kind of a specific realm of application, at least today. And so I do see us both as like almost like an app chain of its own, specifically focused on ZK, but at the same time enabling this next generation of developers, activity users through these ZK-enabled features. I know we're probably out of time. I just have one really quick question for you, which is, it kind of goes around the idea of being able to deploy L2s very quickly, easily, spin them up. And when you talk about that, it really makes me think about cloud computing. Because with cloud computing, you have servers that horizontally scale as you need them, right? Like, and I saw, Kyle from Multicoin recently tweeted about like the TPS and the scalability being able to be solved through like an L1 or an L2. But we don't see that in any other industry, right? Like, no other industry says, okay, we're going to solve this by making beefier machines, right? Everyone else says we're going to solve this by being able to scale it out to multiple machines that are communicating with one another. And so, like that's also, a really interesting value proposition on the data availability side connected with the L2 propagation side, right? Like everyone's asking, are there too many L2s? But I think like this is kind of an experiment to see like, can we horizontally scale this to be a much better user experience? Yeah, like are you guys thinking about the horizontally scalable side, or like are you specifically focused on like just onboarding unique applications in the ecosystem?
you bring up a really good point. And first of all, I just want to say that it is important, like the work that Solana and some of these monolithic chains are doing to optimize execution or mempool like layers of their stack are very valuable innovations, and I think they should be included in like the execution layer of modular stacks or the shared sequencer like mempool layers of the modular stack. So I don't want to say that that's not a valuable approach. It does contribute to scaling. However, there's always going to be a limit to how beefy you can make a single machine, right? And so that's why we believe that, yeah, at the end of the day, you're going to need to have multiple roll-ups side by side. And so that's just from the scalability perspective, and also like customizability. Like, why would everyone want to run on the same server? Like, if you map it to how the way that Web 2 works, like, none of that makes sense. Like, people want to have their own custom VMs, their own servers to run their own apps, and they want to be able to scale them up or scale them down. And like, that's just not possible in a monolithic framework. So anyway, absolutely, like this is something that we think about a lot, and is like central to like our thesis of how we actually scale these systems to like the world. And there was something else I wanted to say, but I'm trying to remember like the other thing, the root of the question. Oh yeah, and related to cloud computing, I think this is like a really important metaphor for people to get to understand why, you know, modular blockchains are such a revolution. Is so in the Web 2 model, right? You have a data center which provides raw compute, right? It's just a resource that's sitting there, and someone's invested a lot to like build it out and make it available for people. And developers come to the data center, you know, and basically launch a custom virtual machine for their application. And on demand, they can scale it up and down, and that's how most of like Web 2 apps work today. Now, and Celestia and the modular stack is the equivalent of that in Web 3. But instead of having a data center, you have a data network, right? And it provides this raw resource of block space, right? That's sitting there waiting for people to tap into. And then blockchain developers come to that resource of Celestia, and they say, hey, I want to deploy a custom virtual blockchain, aka a rollup, you know, with this type of execution environment, and they can scale it up and down depending on how much resources they need. You can even have like an ephemeral rollup. It doesn't have to persist. Like, if you launch a new L1, you have to like maintain it forever, because the equivalent of launching a new L1 is building out your own little data center, like on-prem thing, right? Very few people do that because of the overhead costs of doing it. And yeah, it just, everything makes sense. It's a more economic, scalable model for how to build these things.
Yeah, I think that the ephemeral model is such a novel concept in blockchain, because everything in blockchain we feel is immutable, right? But like, I've actually been hearing a lot about these types of ephemeral models. Like, one example is, you know, when it becomes too expensive to mint an NFT directly on Ethereum, for example, you spin up an ephemeral L2, you mint it on that L2, bridge it over to ETH, and then shut down the L2. There's no other coin in it. So yeah, I think that's a really cool idea. With that being said, I think we're all out of time for this, and really appreciated your time as well, Nick. One of the things that we're doing right now is we're actually going to be launching Manta Pacific's mainnet, and so really excited to share this moment with Celestia as well. And so we're going to just do a quick celebration, cut the cake, and then continue the conversation.
Let's do it.
All right. All right, great. This is the cake I was hoping for.
Wow, it's yummy.
Yeah, but there's no knife. Should we just?
I wish people could see the labeling. Well, I just want to say like congrats to you guys for launching. You launched it before us, so I'm a little bit jealous.
We're waiting for you guys.
We'll be right behind you. And yeah, I mean, this is a big moment and breakthrough for like the whole ZK space. Nothing like Manta exists yet, so
thank you. Thank you.
Forging frontiers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, here we go.
Nice. Okay. Here's your slice. All right.
Oh, we have plates too. Great.
I'm just gonna cut it in.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
That's a tough cake.
Beautiful. Wait, is this edible? It looks edible.
It's edible.
It's edible. All right, I'm gonna do a cut. You're right. This is really kind of intense. Yeah. Cut me a piece. I'm gonna go bigger than you, man. That's a weak piece.
Getting ready for our first panel of the day. I know that many of you guys in the back are having some amazing conversations, so I feel really bad for cutting you off here. But you know, there's actually another room on the other side, so if you want to continue networking, please, make your way to the exit, go out to the other side, and you'll be able to continue your conversation there. That way we can have these panels where people can hear a little bit better. Thank you.
Intersection of DK and Modular, and the panel would include Victor, co-founder of Manta Network, Vince, founder and CEO of ZK Link, Jimmy Yin, co-founder at Izumi Finance, Edward, founder of ZKX Protocol, Tommy, PR lead of Dodo, and Taylor Harris, head of community of OS.
Hi everyone. Okay, we can start. Thanks for everyone coming. I'm Victor, co-founder of Manta Network, and it's great to see you know we have a ZK Day in Singapore. It's the first time like ZK Day came to Asia, and like we hold several ZK Day events before. And actually, right now we besides of the the VCs and all of the ZK EVM projects. Right now, today we are pleasure to have a lot of applications, building some amazing projects, for users actually related to ZK, and that's something really amazing, and especially on the DeFi side, that's about the real money and all of this into ZK. So this is basically this panel about, and it's mainly about DeFi and also some I think some middlewares related to ZK, like DAppOS. So maybe we can just start and let everyone introduce yourself.
Alright, I guess I'll get started then. So, my name is Taylor Harris. Like mentioned before, I'm head of community at DAppOS. So I guess a little bit about me. I am based out of Salt Lake City, Utah, for any of you who know where that is. I've been traveling a lot with DAppOS, so as much as I'd like to say I'm based in Salt Lake, I'm on the road a lot, which is awesome because I get to see new people, meet new faces in all these different places. But basically, DAppOS is a Web3 operating protocol. What we do is we make dApps as user-friendly as Web2 or mobile apps. And recently, we've been taking the approach of intent-centric, so we want to be an intent-centric protocol. And before I jump into that, I know we have a few questions on that today, so I'll save my breath for the last few questions. So thanks for having me and looking forward to the discussion.
Hello guys, I'm Tommy. I'm the PR lead of Dodo. And basically what Dodo does is we are a decentralized exchange, and recently we just launched on, we are deploying on Manta as well, looking to deploy on more ZK chains as well. And a little about me, I just joined the industry last year, and based in Canada, and been around Asia for a lot of conferences recently, so a lot of you guys might have seen me somewhere, so that's everything about me.
Hey, I'm Edward, founder of ZKX. We're building a derivatives protocol within the ZK rollup space. We've been working with Starknet for a long while, and now we're starting to work with ecosystems like Manta. We are building our own dedicated app chain that scales the order book in a decentralized way with a customized consensus algorithm. And we're also approaching, arbitrary computation and how we can scale arbitrary computation within the entire Ethereum ecosystem.
Hi guys, I'm Jimmy from Izumi Finance, and for Izumi, actually we are building multi-chain DApps and with unique features that one liquidity could work for both AMM and on-chain order book. And we have deployed on Manta testnet, and we are hoping to launch on the mainnet soon. Thanks for coming.
Hi everyone, this is Vince from ZK. We're building an Ethereum maximal ZK Web-centric Layer 3 trading execution environment using ZK Snarks. Our aim is to unite the liquidities of the Ethereum Layer 2 ecosystems. We're building the infrastructure for the next generation of decentralized trading products. We want our builders to focus on delivering a true seamless user experience, user-friendly products that the users that can onboard the next millions of traders from centralized platforms to decentralized platforms with liquidity combined, aggregated from Ethereum Layer 2 ecosystems. And we abstract and simplify the developer experience and the user experience for them by using zero-knowledge proofs.
Cool. I think let's start the first question. I think the first one is about the liquidity. And liquidity, actually, we need to talk about the liquidity pattern. And the liquidity pattern employed by DApps have continuously evolved and improved in recent years. Many DApps based on the BN model nowadays incorporate a strategy from Izumi's DLAMM to some extent. And Dodo invented the PMM model. That's back in 2 or 3 years before, right? And can you summarize the different liquidity pattern that's currently existing among DEX, and what trade-offs have been made between different liquidity patterns? Maybe this from Jimmy?
Yes, sure. I think liquidity, especially for on-chain liquidity, is a very exciting topic for the chains. Since DeFi summer, we all know that Compound, the Uniswap, SushiSwap bootstrapped the liquidity for the first wave, and they used the X times Y equals K model, which is quite simple, maybe not that capital efficiency, but quite simple and transparent to enable fair launch and also automated market making for altcoins, like meme coins. So, but as the time going, we need to get some more lasting organic way to let the on-chain liquidity stay and generating enough real yields for the LPs to make the whole system lasting and efficient. So that's why for Izumi, we research and develop the first DLAMM, which is discretized liquidity AMM model to serve for the on-chain trading. So first of all, it is a fully on-chain trading protocol, which is the same as the Uniswap, SushiSwap. So it's fully non-custodian, non-censorship, and very safe. And second is that the DLMM compared with the Uniswap V3, you could think like it is an upgraded version of Uniswap V3, which can use one liquidity working for both the AMM swap and also the on-chain order book. With the discretized liquidity, which means you could put your orders on 1,000, like for Ethereum to USDC, to 1,800, 1,801, and 2 and 3. So you can enjoy similar user experience like on the Binance or on the centralized exchange, but all of your actions will be recorded and executed on chain. We believe that with the layer 2 technology development, the gas fee will be lower and lower, and also the execution speed will be higher and more secure. So hoping to see the on-chain Binance happens on-chain, and it will be a good thing for the whole crypto community to make it more robust and to make it to be more secure and transparent. So this is some points about DLMM, which is the AMM plus on-chain order book.
So basically, mine's going to be really short. As you guys know about AMM, basically a constant reserve of product. It does also have high slippage as a result, and basically what PMM does is it reduces the slippage and impermanent loss by pricing curve, by adjusting the price key curve dynamically. And yeah, we have more information on our docs on the Dodo website as well.
Liquidity is everything that the traders cares about, apart from the cost, in terms of user experience. And there are two categories of liquidity we talk about. And then Izumi Finance and Dodo, they're working on AMMs. And there's also another type of liquidity, the order books. It's interesting that Jimmy mentioned about on-chain Binance. I think we're also trying to help the rise of a decentralized Binance.